This is how Aaron Rodgers destroyed Jimmy Kimmel.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
We should do it in court so he could share his proof with like a judge because...
So when you were saying that he doesn't want that list to come out, you weren't saying that he was on that
No.
list.
If you're a big fan of sports or modern late-night comedy, you might have heard about the recent verbal altercation that took place between NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers and comedian and late-night television host Jimmy Kimmel. However, if you don't know, some time ago, Aaron Rodgers had went on the Pat McAfee show and was talking about Epstein's client list and how there would be some very influential names dropped in the coming months. Then Jimmy Kimmel made fun of him and called him what equates to a whack job conspiracy theorist. Aaron Rodgers would then respond again about how Jimmy Kimmel, for some reason, does not want that list released. And then Jimmy Kimmel would get so angry and upset that he would threaten to sue Aaron Rodgers for defamation. How did a couple celebrities take a seemingly innocuous interaction and have it potentially escalate to the court of law? If you're wondering how this happened, then you've come to the right place. I will be discussing in detail this ridiculous beef and why I think Jimmy Kimmel is taking a massive L in this situation. To begin with, I do not watch sports or late night television, so I think my opinion here is pretty unbiased. It all started on February 14th, 2023, when Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show and he was talking about how the Epstein client list would soon be revealed. And he also went on to detail how he thinks it is quite peculiar that there was so much happening in the world at the same time that this news about Jeffrey Epstein came out, because that could all be used to seemingly distract people from the Epstein client list. I'll show a snippet of Aaron Rodgers' comments so he can explain.
I believe that this has been going on for a long time. Interesting timing on everything. There's a lot of other things going on in the world. Did you hear about the Epstein client list about to be released too? There's some files that have some names on it that might be getting released pretty soon.
So obviously Aaron Rodgers subscribes to the idea that there was a lot of information about Jeffrey Epstein and his island that was swept under the rug after he was murdered by the took his own life, my bad. Aaron Rodgers also subscribed to the channel, and you should too if you're finding value in the content. Also, make sure to like the video and turn on post notifications. I appreciate you guys watching. Anyway, after Aaron's appearance on the show, Jimmy Kimmel would go on to call Aaron Rodgers a conspiracy theorist and talk about how he's received too many concussions and how he wasn't very good in school. I would show clips of this, but I would almost certainly get my ass blasted with the copyright claim, so you'll have to take my word for it or find the clip for yourself after this just to see it. Then Aaron Rodgers would proceed to appear on the Pat McAfee show once again on January 2nd, 2024, where he would go on to say that a lot of people in Hollywood, including Jimmy Kimmel, do not want the Epstein client list to come out. Check this out.
Something to do with the Epstein list that came out?
Feels like.
That's supposed to be coming out soon. That's supposed to be coming out soon.
Look, this guy's been waiting in his wine cellar.
Yeah.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't.
All right.
So pretty standard commentary from Aaron Rodgers, right? Then Jimmy Kimmel took it upon himself to respond once again to Aaron Rodgers absolutely brazenly. This time was much different than the first time. After Jimmy Kimmel delivered a barrage of insults and jokes, he then makes it personal with Aaron Rodgers and threatens to take him to court over the comments he made about him being on Epstein's client list if he does not apologize. It was pretty funny to hear that Jimmy Kimmel got this bent out of shape over a tongue-in-cheek joke that Aaron Rodgers made, so the comedian in this interaction threatened to take him to court. It's important to remember the entire reason that this back and forth started between these two in the first place was because Jimmy Kimmel made jokes about Aaron Rodgers. It's incredibly disappointing to see a comedian getting this butthurt over an obvious joke and threatening to take the person who said it to court for defamation. The worst part is I already showed you guys the clip of what Aaron Rodgers did say, and it certainly would not be enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Aaron Rodgers was inferring that Jimmy Kimmel definitively is on Epstein's client list and said these words with the intent to harm him and his reputation. Aaron Rodgers recently appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, and Joe asked him about this controversy, and Aaron had a pretty fair response to the whole debacle. Here it is.
So when you were saying that he doesn't want that list to come out, you weren't saying that he was on that
No.
list? No. Okay. See, that was a lot of people, if they saw it out of context.
Nobody watched the fucking clip. That's why.
Right.
They just saw a headline.
They saw a very
oh, it's the
small
anti-vax
thing.
guy again. Let's fucking
Right.
hammer him. Yeah. Like, look, and I said this when I was back on the show. Like, that's a big fucking accusation that I wouldn't make. And I said, Jimmy, I'm glad you're not on the list.
I find it hilariously ironic that Jimmy Kimmel responded to him with a threat because he said Jimmy Kimmel would be upset if the list came out. All that means is that Jimmy might have some rich and powerful friends in Hollywood who would be put on blast if the client list did go public with their names on it. That's it. I understand Jimmy's family might have been put in some danger because of this, or at least that's what I've heard. Even though I highly doubt the legitimacy of that claim, if I'm proven wrong, I'll understand to an extent. In an attempt to clear his name from any association with Epstein's client list, is it just me or did Jimmy kind of just make himself look way more suspicious? I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what made me laugh about this whole thing the most. I'm not saying I believe he was or wasn't involved on the island. I sincerely hope he wasn't. Whether you think he is or not, that's for you to hypothesize for yourself because I don't want to get sued. This whole thing just cracked me up. It reminds me of the time that Kanye West claimed that the banks were run by Jewish people, then within a few days of saying this, his bank accounts were miraculously shut down. To me, that's just a hilarious turn of events, all things considered. I just really found it bizarre that Jimmy Kimmel, of all people, who makes fun of people for a living, felt so personally threatened by a dude he considered to be overly concussed and not well educated, that he threatened to take him to court over a drama that he himself started. Jimmy even stated that he wouldn't sue Aaron Rodgers if he received an apology, which even if nothing else happened, is just absolutely ridiculous to hear from a comedian. Not only did you threaten to sue the guy, but you demanded an apology. What the fuck? Now before you guys tell me how Aaron slandered him, first of all, he didn't. I'm not a lawyer, but Aaron Rodgers did not make a definitive statement declaring that Jimmy was on Epstein's client list. If he did, I would be defending Jimmy's right to do this. What he said would not be an easy legal battle for Jimmy to win. Second of all, if Jimmy really did have his family affected and his reputation damaged, then why the fuck would he go to trial over something like this and bring even more attention to the matter? If you want it to be swept under the rug and forgotten about so your family can live their lives in peace, you should let social media and the waning attention spans of the masses do its thing and just wait. Let it blow over. Demanding an apology and threatening a lawsuit is such an embarrassing look for a comedian, especially when there's not a snowball's chance in hell that you would win the lawsuit over a tongue-in-cheek joke that you misinterpreted. You could simply let your writers work an extra hour a week to come up with some extra monologue jokes about him and end his career. Why not just do that? You could run circles around Aaron Rodgers intellectually if it came to a battle of the wits. It also follows the concept of the Streisand effect, which if you don't know is when somebody actively tries to silence something or put it to rest, and contrary to their efforts, it actually gains more attention than it would have originally if they had just let it go. I don't watch football or late night TV. I would not have found out about this if Jimmy didn't threaten to sue him. I actually think Andrew Scholes has the best possible outlook on the situation, so I'll show a little bit of that really quickly.
I'm disappointed in him. I looked up to him. I admired him.
Did you see? I didn't see the response.
He's acting like a lesbian. He's acting like a purple-haired lesbian online.
This is what I told Jimmy. I said to be a fan of Andrew Schultz is to know Andrew doesn't take anything serious.
Yo, you come back,
and
if you started with jokes, you got to come back with jokes.
And
you got to be ready when the other dude.
I think this hits the nail on the head perfectly. Jimmy is still a comedian, so if it was anybody else, I would understand it. But a comedian starting a pissing match with somebody and then trying to make it real and bring the lawyers in is incredibly stupid. That being said, even though I think Aaron Rodgers took the W in this particular case, I still don't really care for the guy. I'm not a big fan of watching men play with balls, so I never really got into Aaron Rodgers and his balls. Now, of course, in addition to the dispute between these two celebrities, the press went hog wild and covered the story again and again while it was happening, and there's even been a couple news stories recently ever since Aaron Rodgers cleared the air about his statements on the Joe Rogan Experience. Despite the frequent media coverage, it seems like this drama simply stopped at Jimmy's empty threats of suing Aaron, and then recently Aaron cleared the air and said he'd be very happy to know that Jimmy isn't on Epstein's client list, and then proceeded to get into his other political talking points, and that is where I will conclude this. In sum, as a young comedian, this really disappointed me to see how Jimmy handled this whole situation, quite frankly like a little bitch. But I still respect the dude because I know this job is incredibly difficult and stressful, even though he's no Conan O'Brien. However, I'm not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers either, but I do think what he said was kind of funny, and I'm shocked he was able to provoke a comedian the way that he did. I'd love to hear what you guys think about these two out-of-touch multimillionaires in the comments below, but all in all, this was how Aaron Rodgers destroyed Jimmy Kimmel. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video to the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to support the channel by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and turning on post notifications down below because that's a free way to help the channel out, and it also helps the community grow brick by brick. I want the YouTube family to hit 100,000 subscribers this year, so please help me out with that by subscribing to the channel. If you want to support the channel further, you can check out the Patreon page down below where you can get some exclusive benefits like getting to see videos early, getting to see see exclusive content like a podcast I recently recorded and my set at the Tampa Improv. You also get to play a direct hand in the direction my channel takes, and you get shoutouts every single video. Shout out to Jason Murray, Crossblocker, Ethan, Thomas Gill, and Karsten, the newest patron, for supporting me on Patreon. Anyway, hope you guys love the video. Make sure you take care of yourselves, your friends, your family, and your loved ones. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.